guys remember back when all those leaked emails and stuff were going around and we were seeing some of these that were kind of funny because it was like Phil Spencer saying, for Microsoft to buy Nintendo would be like the ultimate, aspiration, would be great. And if you guys are following anything Xbox related from, back in the day, Microsoft actually tried to buy out Nintendo and were laughed out of the room, which I think is hilarious. And I still find that to be a very funny thing, that Microsoft was just like, hey, let's buy. Could you imagine a company like Microsoft owning Nintendo? That would be just an absolute mess, and would be like, I think, the worst thing in the world that could happen, and for many, many reasons. But I think the main thing is the corporateness of it all. But what if things were the other way around, right? And this was something that started trending and people were talking about it, and the fact that it's not true is really leading people to kind of be a little bit upset. And I can completely understand that because, again, like, I don't think Nintendo's on the ball when it comes to a lot of the newer things, right? Like, hey, we don't allow this or this, but could you imagine a world where Nintendo actually owned Xbox? That would be insanity. And not only would it be insanity, but it would be just, something that I would find to be really incredible to see as well. And there was this rumor going around that Nintendo was buying Xbox. It was a hoax, but it was going around. And people, when they found out it was not true, were kind of upset about it because I think, deep down, I don't care what kind of Xbox fan you are, I think deep down, if you're an Xbox fan, you are definitely feeling a certain kind of way about not having any exclusives or a company that actually cares about the hardware. Right? Let's just be real. Microsoft doesn't care anything about the hardware. Nobody can tell me or prove that they actually care about the hardware, that it's in a good spot. And, again, Nintendo is a company that does care about the hardware because they rely on their hardware to sell their games and subscriptions. So it wouldn't be surprising to hear that we're always tracking the latest trends related to Xbox. And one that totally caught people by surprise was that Nintendo was, quote, buying Xbox. Naturally, people were doing some research into this to figure out what was going on. It turns out that a Facebook page known as Nintendo Fans gained a ton of attention from a hoax, racking up thousands of likes and comments and shares. It ultimately led to various forms of Nintendo buys Xbox becoming easily the biggest trend on Google. So here's what it says. Acquisition of Xbox Game Studios, Nintendo Company Ltd, and representative director hereinafter. Nintendo hereby announces that it has entered into a share transfer agreement with Microsoft to acquire shares of Xbox Game Studios. CEO Phil Spencer hereinafter for the purpose of strengthening its development structure. As a result of this acquisition, Nintendo will become subsidiary of Nintendo, or it will become the subsidiary of Nintendo, and will continue its development operations under the new name Nintendo Studios America. So, purpose of acquisition was to establish as one of Microsoft's group's overseas bases, and is a development company with strong expertise in creating in-game assets. It has contributed to the development of Nintendo titles, including the Banjo-Kazooie series, and has an ongoing business relationship with Nintendo. Considering this business record, Nintendo has made the decision to acquire shares to strengthen the development structure of the Nintendo Group, subject to the satisfaction of relevant customary conditions for transactions of this nature. Nintendo plans. So this is fun. Again, this was meant to only be a bit of fun. Not even sure if it originates from Nintendo fans or something else, but it's clearly racked up a lot of attention through the influence of Google over the past, couple of days, which is kind of funny. So just to set the record straight, it's not real. There's multiple clues in the image, which I'll link this in the description and you guys can check it out, such as the fact that Banjo-Kazooie isn't spelled correctly, and the chances of Nintendo buying Xbox are little to none. In fact, it's historically been more likely that Xbox would buy Nintendo. This was first attempted 25 years ago, with Nintendo reportedly laughing their asses off at the attempt, and a major Xbox leak a few years ago that revealed how Phil Spencer was dead serious about wanting to acquire Nintendo in 2020, which obviously didn't happen. he says getting Nintendo would be a career moment. One of the emails revealed as part of the Xbox's massive leak revealed that Phil Spencer was keen on trying to acquire Nintendo back in 2020, and it seems Microsoft was supportive of it all. Spencer's email from August of that year mentions that Nintendo was, quote, the prime asset for us in gaming, and suggests that Microsoft's board of directors would have been fully supportive if the opportunity arose. So, again, the Xbox boss mentioned that getting Nintendo would be a career moment and a good move for both companies, but admitted that trying to convince Nintendo their future exists off their own hardware was not going to happen. Which is always kind of funny, when you look at these kind of things, and you see like a company like Microsoft or whatever, and they're trying to kind of talk to like Nintendo. Why would Nintendo games future be off that hardware? Why would that do any good at all? Like, I don't know. To me, it's like Nintendo is an outlier from everyone because their hardware tends to be sold at a profit too, because they sell like lesser hardware, and they always sell it at a profit. So yeah, it's like, it's strange to me when you see these types of things happening, and like people are kind of looking at Nintendo as this company that is very smart. I mean, their games sell way more than than like the PlayStation or Xbox games. I mean, let's just be real. I don't think Xbox games sell for anything, to be honest with you. I mean, if you want to get real about it, I think probably some of the games that like Sony maybe have sold recently, or Nintendo sold better. Let's just say Mario, or this latest Mario Kart or whatever. That could have been a situation where where people were kind of looking at it and saying, hey, you know what, Mario is a great platform game or whatever, or Mario Kart is great, but the fact that game, a game like the new Mario Kart or whatever sells more than every exclusive this year or every first party game this year for Xbox is really kind of telling. Like, I think Nintendo really gets it, and they're very careful with their stuff, and they wait till games have a really good chance at at doing well before they put them out. And I think that's the way you have to kind of do things if you're trying to kind of sell things. So yeah, like I think they do really, really well with that, but I also think you have to kind of look at things in a different perspective. If you're Microsoft, Microsoft realistically has to kind of understand that you can't just spend money. You have to have a situation where you are actively growing things, right? And that's what Microsoft is bad at. Like, they don't grow their own brand. Like they have done things in the past where like they bought things or whatever, but they aren't really necessarily growing things, and that's a real bummer, because to me you have to be able to grow your things. It's like they bought Halo, they bought Gears. I think Forza might be the only one that they really built up for themselves. But other than that, it's like the stuff that they bought. Perfect Dark they bought. They bought Banjo and haven't done anything with it. But, when you look at these things, it's just really kind of sad to see how these things have kind of come about, and how, these companies are, stuck in kind of the past or whatever. So, I hope that things change or whatever. I really, really like the fact that, that they aren't really kind of doing things that are, that are like that different from other people or whatever. But I hope that we see some good things in the future from Microsoft. I would love to see them kind of rebound or whatever, but do I actually see that happening? I don't really think so. I think they're kind of stuck doing what they're doing. I think that they have very little choice, and I think that unfortunately most of the people that were heavy into the brand probably aren't heavy into the brand anymore. So we'll have to see how that kind of works out, if that's something that even can work out. If it does, then I'll be happy to say I was wrong. No problem saying I was wrong at all. If that's something that actually does kind of arise or whatever. So we'll see. At the end of the day, Microsoft's going to do what they think is best for themselves, and if that's going to be something that kind of changes gaming, I think they don't care. They don't really care about the hardware, so we'll have to see how things kind of roll about. with everything else that's coming up. So I would love your guys' thoughts and opinions on this. What do you guys think? Do you guys think it would have been interesting for another company to buy Xbox? I would like to see Xbox standing on its own, you know. Keep about 14, 15 of the studios, put out your games, keep them exclusive, all that kind of good stuff. I think you'd be surprised that it could really do well, you know, just doing that. You wouldn't need to put everything everywhere. You'd save money that way too, you know. But I don't know. How do you guys feel about it? Let me know. Rack 'em up. Crap Gamer out.